Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for attending this week's version of Doing Justice Brings Joy. I'm coming to you today um, instead of on Friday because I was on a train from DC to Durham yesterday. Inviting the rails is always fun and exciting, but not at the expense of Black communities. I'm coming to you really angry today, and so I am going to use a PowerPoint as well as give you a real history, a 20-year history of public transit and its portrayal of the Black community. So we're going to talk history, numbers, and everything. I'm asking the question today, how many times are we supposed to wait in the Black community around getting public transit? The fight for justice, transit justice on routes 4 and 9 have been mind-boggling. I want to start by naming something clearly. What is happening right now on Route 4 and Route 9 in Durham is not new. It is a consistent pattern. For more than 20 years, Black communities in North Durham and Bragtown have been asked to believe in a transit future that's always just a few years away. We were told to be patient. We were told that big changes were coming and we were going to be included in those changes. We were told over and over again that the wait would be worth it. But today's episode is about memory. Because institutions, Go Triangle, Go Durham, the Durham County Commissioners, the Durham City Council members are counting on us to forget past promises. And what they're proposing now in the transit plan, the proposed update to the transit plan is to once again deprioritize and de-emphasize and defund Route 9 and Route 4 expansions and improvements that we have been promised for over a decade. And it only works if we don't remember who we are and whose we are. So I'm going to start with the money and the promises. So back in 2011, voters approved a half-cent sales tax for public transit. That vote wasn't symbolic, it was specific. It was sold to voters as a way to finally improve bus service, increase frequency, make stops safer, and invest in communities that depend on transit every day. At the same time, regional leaders promoted the Durham Orange Light Rail as the spine of that system. We were told back in 2011 that local buses would improve, frequency would increase, equity would be centered. This is what we were told in 2011. but there seemed to have been a little asterisk put on it. The asterisk was, but it be after the rail is built, or maybe it was once this big project is done, or just wait a little longer. So then we waited, and this is where the promises and the money come into place. How much of that money actually generated? Durham's half-cent transit tax began being collected. Now, we voted for it in 2011, but they didn't actually start bringing in the coins until 2013. But since 2013, that's 13 years ago, it has generated between 450 and a half a billion. That's a half a billion with the B dollars. That's what they've already collected. By 2021, Durham officially reported that 173 million had been spent from that tax. And here's the part that you need to understand. Of that 100, and that's 5 years ago, 173 million had been spent, but 126 million of that went to planning and engineering the light rail project that never saw the light of day and never ran a single train. That was derailed by Duke, because that name's coming up again. Derailed by Duke University with a week left before we had to sign on the dotted line to get the federal funds for this light rail system. Which means that over a 10-year period, all the money that was left for all bus service, shelters, stops, benches, frequency, maintenance across the entire county was $47 million, which is less than $5 million a year was spent on the bus system. So when we hear today there isn't capacity yet, we need to phase improvements. This is not a mystery. This is a prioritization choice. And we have always been the afterthought. In fact, we had to fight to get Route 9 included. Initially, not one document included Route 9, the entire route. Was excluded from the 2040 plan. We had to fight to add it. Where the money went and who waited. Light rail got 126 million. Bus service and infrastructure, 47 million. Total transit spent 172 million. Who got left out? Route 4 and Route 9. we started a campaign called Laying It on the Line for Route 9. And y'all must think that because y'all don't know. Y'all think I'm old and I won't get out here in these streets. You're confused. Y'all are all new people, so you don't know. Well, you're about to find out. You're about to find out. We got a new city manager, a new county manager, a new Go Triangle director since we went in them streets over Route 9. But it's not too late to educate. Not too late to educate. Routes 4 and 9 are not abstract lines on a map. They are lifelines. They connect the people in North Durham to work, school, groceries, medical care, and, more importantly, to each other. And yet, for years, riders waited 30 to 60 minutes at bus stops that are ditches. The bus stops lack shelters and benches. And the one in front of Bragtown Library, where the children have to catch the bus, is literally a ditch. There is YouTube video of people who are standing inches away from the street waiting on a bus. They use Route 9. This is what gets me. Pimping our neighborhood. Pimping our bus route. They use Route 9 to justify the transit and sidewalk bond. And now you pimped us to get the money, and now you want to punk us? Now that you got it? I don't think so. Not on my watch. The people of Route 9 and Route 4, they didn't just talk about what was going on. They documented it. They organized. They filled out surveys. They interviewed riders. They made public officials ride the bus. When the cameras followed those rides, the truth was visible. There were segments on CBS 17. There were segments on the Bike Durham YouTube channel. It all showed that this wasn't inconvenience, it was risk. It was real safety of real children involved. It was dignity and denied to these people. And you're going to continue to do that? Not on my watch. Not on my watch. In 2019, Duke University refused to move forward with the light rail project. Within weeks, the project collapsed. And notice what didn't happen. There were no refunds, no immediate reinvestment in bus corridors, no accountability for where the money went. Bus riders were again told, at least now we can focus on buses. But focusing on buses only matters if buses actually improve. when the draft of the 2040 transit plans were released in 2022, Route 9 was not there. It wasn't there. Not at frequency riders needed, not at the hours the communities depend on. So once again, the residents of Bragtown had to organize. The residents showed up, testified, submitted comments, and refused to be ignored. And eventually, only after that pressure, Route 9 was included and promised 15-minute service, later hours, and stop improvements. We saw a couple of improvements of sidewalks along Club Boulevard, but the rest of this is ink on paper. Now, the update to the plan that is that Go Triangle approved of, they're talking about delaying implementation of the improvements on Route 9 and Route 4, the ones they used to get the bond referendum passed. They're not calling it a cancellation, they're calling it phasing. But we've been phasing before. Delay is not neutral. Delay keeps people standing in gutters, in ditches. Delays keep workers from missing connections. And after, with what they're doing with the One Big Beautiful Bill requiring you to work 40-hour week to get your Medicaid and SNAP benefits, if you miss connections, you miss your job, you miss more than a paycheck, you miss Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits. Delay is a danger to our elders who rely on and plan their whole day about catching rides to health care and Social Security office and other public services. When delay always lands on the same neighborhoods and the same communities, it's not a matter of logistical issues. It's a policy. And in my opinion, a discriminatory one. I'm deeply troubled by these delays. I want you to see it. The chronic daily conditions that the people and riders on Route 6, Route 4, and Route 9 have to deal with. They are facing long waits, unreliable connections, unsafe bus stops. They are lacking sidewalks and lighting. Routes that they serve disproportionately Black and low-income communities and are currently have been promised over and over again 15-minute service that would connect them to jobs and to amenities, only to be denied and delayed. The Bragtown community, the Walltown community, the Merrickmore community, all have been over these years, since 2011, have been crying out for just transit justice for their neighborhoods and communities. We won these service enhancements were won through sustained pressure, not automatically provided by agencies. In fact, out of sight, out of mind. But we caught you this time, and we're not going to just sit by and let this happen. We needed this to be more than ink on paper. In 2023, and that was what, 3 years ago? They promised funded improvements, 15-minute frequency, and extended hours on Route 9. They have delayed the implementation, saying it's citing staffing shortages and prioritization issues, despite the fact the money's in the bank. The people voted and the money's in the bank for these improvements. Delays are causing unsafe conditions for our children, lost job opportunities, and eroding public trust. The low and moderate income communities of Durham are transit dependent and transit deprived. This is about whether politicians are going to be as good as their word, and this is about political will and accountability. And voters voted for this. That bond, that transit bond, included this. And we're demanding accountability. I'm telling you, I'm inviting transit activists to appear on my show next Friday, where we're going to go into this in more detail. There is so much going on this week that needed my attention, that needed my comments, but I can't let this one go. I'm going to invite folks to come and explain themselves on this show next week. Dare they come? Dare they come? Durham's transit tax has already raised $500 million, but between now and 2040, it's expected to raise over $1 billion. Bus riders in underserved areas have received very little benefit, if any, due to the spending choices, prioritization of these institutions, not because there is a lack of money, but because there is a lack of will. They think they can just walk over us anytime they feel like it. They think that because, we're fighting for transit free bus transit for all, that should be enough. But if a free ride to nowhere on time, what's the point? Moving forward requires transparent timelines, clear reporting, and consequences for missing deadlines. You see, the staff is where the deadlines are being missed, and they're not held accountable. I don't see when the city manager doesn't care. His subordinates don't care. And if he deprioritizes these communities and gives some half-ass a statement to the city council about why this is not the right priority for the right time, and they rubber stamp that shit, we hold them accountable, but the delays go on. I'm lighting a match. Go Durham, go Triangle Chief. Welcome to the fire pit. Because if I don't get my Route 9 improvements, you gonna catch hell until I do. I'm tired. I've been fighting in these streets. I keep fighting only for people to just say, okay, you won. Now what you gonna do? We're being trumped. The courts tell them you gotta change. They say, make me. City staff and county staff, and that's what they're doing to me right now. That's what they're telling Ragtown and Merrickmore right now. That's what they're telling Walltown right now. And you want, so the city council said so. So the county commissioner said so. And we make the decisions about what the day-to-day is. All right? It's going to be day-to-day hell. So here's where we're landing, people. Because I don't want to keep you all day. I'm trying to become more disciplined. We're not going to end this story with frustration and empty promises and threats from me. I'm not going to make empty threats and promises. I'm too old, I'm too tired, and too maladjusted for that. If you care about Route 9 and Route 4, if you care about North Durham and Bragtown, then the action looks like this. You need to show up to the Go Triangle Board of Trustees meeting this Wednesday. That's where the implementation timelines live. We're going to show up to the Durham City Council hearings when budgets and transportation are being discussed. When they talk about the capital improvement plan and the budgets, they're going to fund the where the shelters and sidewalks are funded or not. We're going to be at those meetings. We're going to show up to the Durham County Commissioners meeting because that's where the half-cent transit tax belongs. And Commissioner Valentine, I understand you're on that Go Triangle board. Oh, Commissioner Valentine, I know that you have the people at heart. I know that. So I'm going to make sure that you have the information that you need to hold the board of Go Triangle accountable. And we're going to show up at school board hearings because many of our children ride Go Durham buses to school. And we need them to be arriving to school on time and safely. We need them to be waiting at bus stops that are safe and secure, not standing in ditches waiting to be picked up by a bus. You don't need to have any special skills or language. When you speak up at these hearings, you need to say what bus route you ride on, name your stop, and tell them what the conditions are at that stop, how long you have to wait, What happens if you miss a bus that's on an hour schedule and the bus is delayed 30 minutes and then you miss the next bus? How you get to keep your job or lose your job? We need to understand when hard date are improvements going to be made to Route 4 and Route 9. We are not accepting delay. We are not accepting delay. Delay is denial, and we will no longer accept it. Before I leave today, I want to say this. If you're tired of this, you're not wrong to be tired. If this feels familiar, it is. If you wonder whether speaking up matters, remember this. Route 4 and Route 9 are in the plan because we refuse to be quiet. Not because they said, oh, we accidentally forgot Route 9 and Route 4. Let's put them in. No, they weren't that generous. We made them do it. History only changes when memory is kept alive and pressure is applied with care. So may you go into these rooms grounded, not rushed. We're going to be clear, not cruel. We're going to be persistent, not burned out. You know, my favorite parable is the one of the persistent widow who said, "Give me justice against my enemies. Give me justice against my adversaries." She was persistent. And the unjust judge finally took into account her pleas because he was tired of hearing it. So we're just going to keep beating the drum until they're tired of hearing it and give us what we need. May you remember that waiting has always cost this community, already cost us enough. And that demanding better and demanding what we deserve is not impatience. It's accountability. We are no longer going to be patient. We are going to hold these officials accountable. Don't let anyone tell you that 30 years of waiting still isn't long enough. I'll see you this week at some of these meetings. I'll see you next week. I'm going to ask my dear friend Vanessa Evans to join me next week. I'm going to see if I can pull up the YouTube video about Route 9. Yeah, I found it. So, okay.
The best thing about here is a lot of people do like depend on us. I just like being a part of that. You know, people trying to get from point A to point B, and it's my job to get them there safely. So that's what I do.
I would like people to know that this service is extremely important for our community.
I can listen to my audiobooks while I'm on the bus. Sometimes I do talk to people on the bus, get to know people, passengers that ride every day like I do.
Lock the door when you come out.
People use transportation just like they use their own car. And if their car wasn't reliable, let's say their car could only crank up every hour, they would be so frustrated. So they have to look at it like that. Like, this is our car and we need it to be more reliable.
I say if there's more bus stops. I actually had to transfer my oldest daughter to school because there's no city bus that goes there, but it's in Durham. So, and from the city bus taking to her school is about a 20-25 minute walk from the nearest bus stop. So that was too much for me. And I transferred her to school, which is the easiest city bus route in case I had to get there.
You can't run more than 3 errands on a day using this bus system if you're going to do business. Now, if you're in your car, goodness, you could run lots of errands during the day. But it's not so easy for those of us who use the bus. Sometimes there's something that looks like a utility pole. Sometimes there's just a sign. It's harder to find. See, for me, that pole is much harder to find than a huge bus shelter.
So there's no sidewalk at all. The bus stop, if I do decide to catch the 9A, the bus stop is literally in the street on this side, and on the other side it's like in the street, and then there's like a drop hill. So if you have like a stroller, or if I want to take my daughter, it would be impossible.
Durham is a growing city, so eventually the routes are going to have to cover that, or they're going to have to come up with new routes.
I wish that there was more bus routes. And I wish that they ran more often, like more frequently.
I wish that the actual bus stops in this city would be more consistently located.
The bus takes a long time to get here, but I'd rather have the bus take a long time to get here than walk.
It shouldn't be a choice between I'd rather it take a long time to get here than to walk. We deserve better. We deserve better. Thank you for watching this week's Doing Justice Brings Joy.
I may be poor, but I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be in jail, but I am somebody. I may be uneducated, but I am somebody.